we're rounding decimals. And before we can round decimals, we've got a little bit of a strategy we use. We put it on a place value chart. So the number I'm rounding is what, boys and girls?
Is 3 and 1/10.
3 and 1/10. So let's put that on the place value chart.
No.
Now, yesterday I talked to you about unit form and how if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, all I simply do is move my ones over to the 10th place, correct? So basically that's what we're doing on the place value chart, so that we know what goes on the bottom of the number line. Now, it just so happens that I like to start with the largest place value on the place value chart when I'm rounding. So look at the three things they're asking us to round to. Which one of these is the largest place value? Are you sure?
10.
Tens.
There's no hundreds.
So we'll start with tens. Now how many tens do you see in the place value chart?
0.
So 0 tens equals 0. And I want to stop right now and tell you how many things you need on every single number line. 7. Watch me, I'm going to show you. Unit form, standard form. Unit form, standard form. Midpoint. Number I'm rounding, placed on the number line, and something circled. That's 7. So on your exit ticket today, there are 2 number lines. So how many points possible? 14. 7 for one, 7 for the other. Okay? So what comes after 0?
1.
So 110 equals, no it doesn't,
11. Oh, 10.
10. If I put a 1 in the tens place, doesn't that equal 10? Okay. Now, by the way, one of them on your exit ticket has 0 tens and 1 10. And what's the midpoint here, Ella? Okay, if I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, what's my midpoint? Okay, so 5 is my midpoint, right? Okay, so some of these, remember, you will use a number line to think of. Some of them, you get to use a strategy of putting a 5 on the end of the decimal number, okay? So I'm rounding, and you need to listen because there's one on your exit ticket that has a whole number, only it's a different whole number. I'm rounding 3 and 1/10. What's my whole number? 3. So is 3 above or below 5? Below 5. So you have to write 3 and 1/10 on the number line. Everyone write that now. Okay? So what does this round to? 0 tens. Let me count the items, okay? Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 0 makes 7. Okay? Let's do the next place value. The tenths comes next, right?
Yeah.
How many tenths do I have?
4. 31.
31. Remember, I have to slide the 3 over. So 31 tenths equals, how do I write that in standard form?
310.
No, you're close. You're thinking hundredths. How do I write it in standard form?
3 and 1/10.
3 and 1/10. Okay. What comes after 31?
32.
32 tenths. How do I write that in standard form? 3 and 2/10. Notice I've got unit form, standard form, unit form, standard form. That's 4 things. What's the midpoint? Alondra?
35.
Okay, now if I pick 35, that's above this, so it's up here somewhere. Remember, I'm going to add a 5 to what? I'm going to put a 5 on the end of what number?
The bottom.
The bottom number. So Alondra, tell me what this number is. 3 and 1500s, okay? Think back to your sprint from yesterday. That's what we did. We put a 5 on the end, okay? And Aubrey just did hers. When did you do yours? Last night? Yeah, so yours might even be more fresh in your mind, okay? Now, I'm rounding 3 and actually this is 10 hundredths. So what does it round to? Basically, it rounds to itself, right? That's kind of confusing. Just wait, it gets worse. So can a number round to itself? Well, here's an idea back from the old days. What if I round 30 to the nearest 10? What does it round to? 30, okay? So can a number round to itself? Yes, it can. All right, let's take a look at the hundreds because I'm a little confused. I have no hundreds. I didn't write anything in the hundreds place, and Dad's telling me I've got to do it. Well, actually, there is something in the hundreds place. What is it?
0.
A 0. So if I continue sliding digits over like I did before, what will I slide over?
3, 10.
A 3 and a 1. So now, and this one, to give ourselves room, let's put 310 hundredths on this side. And how do I write that in standard form?
3.10.
Very good. 3 and 10 hundredths is the same thing as 310 hundredths.
301 10.
No, we're going to leave the 0 in the hundredths place. What comes after 310?
311.
311 hundredths. Notice I'm using that abbreviation. And in standard form, that equals 3 and 11 hundredths. Now, the strategy for finding the midpoint on a number with decimal place value, Mia, what do I do?
You have to put the 3 decimal 10.
And then what do I put on the end?
You put the 3 decimal.
Put the 5 at the end. Okay? We did it yesterday on the sprint. Okay, so the number I'm rounding is 3.100. What does that round to? Itself. Okay, now I think you're really going to like the next one. It goes up to the hundreds place.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Now, I looked at this and I went, oh, that's really great. They didn't even give us a place value chart with enough place value on it. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to slide digits over anyway. So, how do I write 115 and 376 thousandths on here?
11.
11 tens. Very good. 5 ones. Okay, keep going.
3 tens. 706,000.
Good. And it really isn't going to matter because over here, I'm not even rounding to the nearest hundred anyway.
Near.
So then continue sliding digits. No, I don't want you to add a box. What do you mean you have to add a box? Oh, I have more than you do? Oh, no, you don't have to. Here's why. Because, look up here, boys and girls. You don't have to round to the nearest thousandths. So that's why you don't have to add a box. I see what you're thinking, though.
But it's good practice, right?
Okay, so Mrs. Lewis really likes to start with which place value when she's rounding?
The biggest.
The largest. So which one of these mentioned here is the largest?
Hundreds. No, tens.
Tens. So how many tens do I have?
11.
11 tens equals, Aubrey, you want to get the door, please? Thank you. 11 tens equals, anything times 10 out of 0 to the end?
110.
110. Remember, 7 things on each number line. Here, what comes after 11?
112.
No. 12 comes after 11, right? And that would be 120. Let me fix that too. So 11 tens, 12 tens comes after. Now, don't make this harder than it is. If I have 110, it's a whole number, and 120 on a number line, what's halfway between, Katie?
150.
115. Okay, now here's the problem. Cooper, what place value does the number I'm rounding go out to?
100.
Thousands. So I have to carry my midpoint out to thousands. This is very important. Now, here's how I say it. 115 and 0 thousandths. That's my midpoint. 115 and 376 thousandths.
Goes above it
It's above the midpoint
by 376,000.
by 376 thousandths. Now, that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the last thing I need to do?
Circle.
Circle what it rounds to. Okay, you think you're ready to do the ones place on your own?
Yep.
Okay, what do I have for ones?
115.
115 ones equals 115. Okay, I'm going to pause it and let you go ahead and work on that. Pass. All right, what comes after 115?
116. Ones equals 116.
Good. The midpoint, boys and girls.
115 and 5 thousandths.
Okay, we have a little bit of disagreement here. So here's what I want you to do. 115, 116. What's halfway between?
115 and 5 thousandths.
Here's the number 1 and the number 2. What's halfway between those?
1 0
1 and 5 tenths, 1 and a half. So how is this any different? What's halfway between, Brian?
150 and 5 tenths.
5 tenths. Okay, use the little numbers to help you with the big numbers. I don't know that if that's an official strategy, but I use it all the time. Okay, so now that I have a midpoint, do I need to add any place values to my midpoint? How many? 2. Why, Katie?
Because your number goes out to
The number I'm rounding goes to the thousandths place. So this is what I ask myself. 115 and 500 thousandths, 115 and 376 thousandths. Is that above or below the midpoint? Below.
Because, so we're going to circle 115.
Okay, so check your number line. Unit form, standard form. Look at yours, not mine. Unit form, standard form, midpoint, the number we're rounding, and a circle. You get all 7?
Yes.
Okay, let's try the next one. Oh, I actually want to walk you through this one because this one's kind of confusing. The hundredths place, boys and girls, is right there. That number is 11,537 hundredths. Just going to write right across there, which equals 150. Oh, why am I putting it up there?
What?
That's okay. 100 or 11,537 hundredths, which equals 115 and 37 hundredths.
Oh, dang it.
Now, up here, what comes after 7? 8. So 115 and 38 hundredths. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote it on the top.
Yeah, you got me confused right there.
Well, get back to where you need to be. Okay. So I've got 115 and 37 hundredths. And 115 and 38 hundredths. One of those is going to be my answer. Let's talk about midpoint. Amy, tell me about the midpoint here. Can you see, Justin? What's my strategy for finding the midpoint on a number with decimal place value? Put a what on the end?
A 5.
So I'm going to write 115 and 37 hundredths and just add a 5. Now the number I'm rounding is 115 and 376 thousandths. My midpoint is 115 and 375 thousandths. Aubrey, is 376 above or below 375? Above.
By 1.
By 1 what?
100.
You're close. By 1,000. It's above by 1,000. So this number rounds to 115 and 38 hundredths. Okay, we have 4 more and then you'll have time to do the exit ticket. Okay? So take a look at the back. This one's actually kind of fun. First of all, they finally gave us enough room to write. So that helps. Let's get the number we're rounding on the place value chart. What number am I rounding?
994 thousand.
994 thousandths. And using the strategy of removing a place value and sliding over, here's what it will look like. Now, did anyone remember that I said on Zern they don't give you this? On Tower of Power, they simply give you a number line and they want you to fill it in. They give you the number you're rounding, but they don't give you this. Boys and girls, where could you find one of these?
You can make one your own.
You could make one yourself. Or could you make this place value chart work like one of those? You know, just put a box around what you need, okay? And then, lo and behold, on the back, you've got number lines, okay? Or you can just draw it yourself on a piece of scrap paper. Okay, so which place value would I like to start with?
Tens.
Tens. What do you see in the tens place?
Nothing.
Nothing. So what number stands for nothing?
0.
So 0 tens equals 0. And what comes after 0?
1.
110 equals 10. Do you have this memorized yet? Because you've got it on your exit ticket. What's the midpoint?
5.
No, it is not. 5. Remember when I drew all those, I wrote all those numbers and then I circled the 5? Okay, we're still talking about the same thing. So the number I'm rounding, now let's take a look at this. This is 5 and then 0 thousandths, right? 5 and 0 thousandths. You know what this one is? 0 and 994 thousandths. So I've got a 5 in the ones place for my midpoint. And my actual number is less than 1. So where do you think it goes? Way down below, right? And when you write 994 thousandths on your number line, make sure you have 0 decimal. What does it round to? It rounds to 0 or 0 tens. Okay, so let's count. unit, standard, midpoint, number I'm rounding, and circle. Okay? Double check yours. Because if you do all of these without completing one of those, then you're going to miss 2 or 3 on your exit ticket for no reason. Okay, let's do the ones place.
0. Again.
So this number is
Wait, no.
barely above 0. Barely above 0, okay? It's not even 1 whole yet. So how many ones do I have?
0.
So 0 ones equals 0. 1 1 equals, remember that from yesterday? Yeah? Okay, Kaden, I'm going to ask you, what's halfway between 0 and 1? And don't tell me 1.5. Put your hands down. You're going to make me.
Half.
You're right. He says it's a half. How do I write a half as a decimal?
0.510.
5/10. Quit talking. All right, so now the number, my midpoint needs how many more place values?
0.
Why?
Because it's in the.
No. Why do I need to add zeros, Jesus?
Because the numbers have to be.
That's right. We need the equal number of place values. So 994 thousandths goes to the thousandths place. So that's where I need my midpoint to go to. So everybody put your zeros on. Okay, you got it? Now this is 500 thousandths. And this is 994 thousandths. Boys and girls, above or below the midpoint?
Above.
So this one rounds to 1 whole. Now that's pretty interesting to me. Okay, this same number is barely above 0 and it's almost 1. Cool.
Because that's 10 to the other.
That's right. Okay, let's look at the tenths place. How many tenths do I have?
9.
9 tenths equals what? Standard form. 9 tenths.
90. 0.
0.9. Now don't shout out any answers, but the next one is 10 tenths. 10 tenths. Think about how to write that in standard form. What is it?
1.
1. Now, technically it's 1.0. That's 10 tenths, correct? Because the last digit I write is in the tenths place. But do I need the 0 in the decimal?
No.
No. So now my question is, what's halfway between 9 tenths and 1? Katie?
95.
You're right. 95 hundredths. So Jaden, tell me, do I need to add any place values to 95 hundredths before I can do this?
Yes.
How many? 1. So I've got 994 thousandths. That's the number I'm rounding. And I've got 950 thousandths.
It goes above.
Above or below? Above.
Definitely.
900, make sure you've got 0 decimal, 994 thousandths. And it rounds to what number?
10 tenths.
What?
10 tenths.
Which is the same thing as
1.
1. Very good. Okay, we've got 1 less. 1 less, 1 left. 99 what?
100.
Hundredths. I'm okay with your abbreviation. Pay careful attention to this one because you're going to round to the nearest hundredth on your exit ticket. So how do I write 99 hundredths in standard form?
0.
Very good. Quit. And what comes after 99 hundredths?
10.
100 hundredths. So let me get this straight. It would be a 0 in the hundredths place. Eyes up here. This is what 100 hundredths looks like. What can I erase?
0.
And the decimal, right? So 100 hundredths is 1 whole. Halfway between, Cooper.
995
Okay, what number am I rounding? What number am I rounding? 994,000.
It goes below.
Tiny bit below.
One
One what below?
1,000.
1,000th below. So the answer on this one,
Is
99 hundredths. Okay? Now I want you to go ahead and turn it over and look at your exit ticket. Notice they must feel like helping you today because you've been helped. Here's what the problem is with you not writing it on there. You forget to write it on the number line. So, I mean, seriously, would it help to just go ahead and write it? I don't know. But what you can't forget is that the number you're rounding has to be written on the number line. That's like number 6 out of 7 things you've got to do, right? Okay, here's what I help the other kids with. I help them with what to put on the bottom of both number lines. So how many 10s do I have here? 0 10s equals 0. Write that down now and then put your pencil down. Okay, how many hundredths do I have? 854 hundredths. Now, boys and girls, if you don't write standard form and unit form on here, it's going to be wrong. How do I write 854 hundredths in standard form? Robert, how do I write it?
It's 8 decimal point 5 and 4.
Good. If you do not put the decimal point on standard form, it's wrong. Don't write 854 without a decimal. 8 and 54 hundredths. Okay? So 7 things on each number line. Do not bring it to me with less than 7 things done, because I'll send you back to your seat. Okay? Good job today.